This government has not promoted welfare either. What is the expenditure on health? In 2017-18, the government will spend 53,198 crore. In 2018-19, government will spend 54,667 crore, an increase of about 1,400 crore. What is expenditure on education? In 2017-18, government will spend 81,869 crore. In 2018-19, it will spend 85,010 crore, which is an increase of 3,130 crore. You have an additional revenue expenditure of 1,07,372 crore, but on health and education, the additional expenditure is only 4,600 crore, a very small fraction. Not only that, in what they call core schemes, government has actually cut the expenditure next year. Let me give you a few examples. National Rural Drinking Water Mission. Current year, 7,050 crore. Next year, 7,000 crore. Swachh Bharat Mission. Current year, 19,248 crore. Next year, 17,843 crore. National Health Mission. Current year, 31,292 crore. Next year, 30,634 crore. Price Stabilization Fund. Current year, 3,500 crore. Next year, 1,500 crore. Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana, rural electrification. Current year, 5,400 crore. Next year, 3,800 crore. There are many examples. In Maganrega, for example, the expenditure this year and next year is exactly the same. They're not even providing for inflation increase. For midday meal scheme is exactly the same. They're not providing for any inflation-based increase. So in every which way, failing fiscal consolidation, failing creation of employment, failing to relieve agricultural distress, failing to provide for jobs, failing to promote welfare, this budget has ignored the prescription and the course of treatment of its own doctor. The patient has been a terrible patient. And as far as we are concerned, this government has turned out to be a thoroughly incompetent government in managing the economy. In times of crisis, we need competent managers. In 1991 and in subsequent years, which I referred to in the opening part of my speech, we had competent managers of the economy. Today, we have the most incompetent set of managers managing the economy. In the last year of its 5-year term, the country has been brought down to 8.2, 7.1, 6.5, and perhaps 6 or 6.5 next year. Inflation will rise, fiscal deficit will widen, macroeconomic stability has been compromised, distress in the farm sector continues, young men and women will be without jobs, private investment is falling, it has fallen by 6% of GDP, credit is sluggish, exports are well below the high mark of $300 billion reached 4 years ago. In every which way you look at this budget and the economy, this budget has failed this country. In conclusion, all I can say is, after seeing the 5th budget of this government, all I can say is, thank God this government will not present a 6th budget. Thank you.
name and then you can pose your question.
Hello, sir.
With you, but there is no investment being made.
Yeah.
Please remember the gross fixed capital formation has fallen from 35% to below 29%. There is a fall in investment of 6% of GDP, which means people are not investing. Private investment is not taking place. And government is cutting capital expenditure. So what you say is correct, but who is investing? It can't. Because in India, as I explained in numerous meetings, we have two kinds of incomes, taxable income and non-taxable income. In most countries, every kind of income is taxable. In India, there is a very large part of incomes which are non-taxable. Agricultural income is non-taxable. Income of religious institutions is non-taxable. Income of charities is non-taxable. Income of scheduled tribes is non-taxable. Income of people living in the Northeast is non-taxable. As long as you have taxable income and non-taxable income coexisting, and there is money flow from non-taxable income earner to a taxable income earner, and from a taxable income earner to a non-taxable income earner, a farmer paying the lawyer, and the lawyer paying a salary to a worker in the Northeast, or a factory owner paying a salary to a worker in the Northeast, simply by digitization, you can't stop this phenomenon of flow of money from taxable sector to the non-taxable sector and from non-taxable sector to a taxable sector. This is a peculiarity of the Indian Constitution and the Indian tax laws.
Good evening, target, especially which has been a borrowed concept from the European Union, which they themselves have agreed in 1992 by Maastricht Treaty. So, to my knowledge, it has a fair, inversely proportional to credit expansion. If the fiscal deficit is lower, fiscal expansion will be more. And if its fiscal deficit is higher, we'll be having the monetary expansion, low monetary expansion. So your views on that? Why can't we go with the N.K. Singh's committee report of having a fiscal deficit range instead of a particular target?
Because I think Mr. N.K. Singh is wrong. Have you read Dr. C. Rangarajan's column, I think today in one of the papers? This very question has been answered. It's after intensive debate among governors of central banks all over the world, among economists, there is today a broad consensus that the borrowing limit should be 3% of GDP. Nobody is saying that in an exceptional situation you cannot relax. Suppose there is a war. You may have to relax. Suppose there is a huge national calamity in a small country. You may have to relax. But under normal circumstances, there is a very, very, very broad consensus, very wide consensus, that 3% is a limit of borrowing for the government. That will give enough money to the government to spend, invest. That will leave enough money for the private sector to borrow and invest. Having arrived at this broad consensus, and having accepted this broad consensus, and this very government said, yes, on the day they took office, they said, our goal is to achieve 3%. What is their record? When I came back to the finance ministry after the years of monetary expansion, fiscal expansion, the fiscal deficit was 5.8%. I publicly said this is unacceptable. We have to bring it down. I had 2 years, 2012-13 and 2013-14. I brought 5.8% to 4.4%. So when this government came into office, they got 4.4%. And now, this year, the 5th year, they will end with 3.3%, 2018-19. So we took 2 years to bring it down from 5.8 to 4.4, a reduction of 1.4. They have taken 5 years to bring it down by 1.1%, which is why we say this government has not done enough fiscal consolidation.
So, my name is Ramesh. Well, do you have 3 good points about this particular budget in your analysis, sir?
Oh, there are many nuggets. When somebody writes a speech running to 166 paragraphs, there are bound to be some nuggets. The nuggets are, they have not abolished Maganrega. They have kept Maganrega and kept the allotment. They have announced 9,000 kilometers of additional national highway, which is welcome. They have increased the allocation to Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana, rural roads, which is welcome. They have announced 24 new medical colleges, which is welcome. So there are many nuggets. But any finance minister, any government presenting a budget is bound to have a few nuggets. So I hope you are satisfied with the answer.
Hello sir, good evening. My question is related to the long-term capital gains tax. So the government has introduced it and they have also decided to keep the STT. So since that announcement, there is a meltdown in the markets. So do you feel, considering the situation, the reintroduction of LTCG is a good move? And if not for the LTCG, is there any other way to garner the revenue without affecting the market sentiments? What is your views on that, sir?
See, in principle, there is nothing wrong with LTCG. It is there in many countries. There is LTCG in our country also for other asset classes. We did not have LTCG in equities. We abolished it and introduced STT. So in principle, there's nothing wrong with LTCG. The questions are, 1, when you introduced LTCG, should you not have abolished STT? Question 2, is this the correct time? Is this the right moment to introduce LTCG when capital investment has fallen by 6%? These questions should have been posed and answered. If there is booming capital investment and you want to go back to LTCG, maybe there won't be so much unhappiness. But when capital investment has fallen by 6% of GDP, you keep STT, which replaced LTCG in equity, and you introduce LTCG, which is why the market is reacting the way it's reacting.